So welcome back to everyone. This is TMR's MasterAdvisor series for October 1st. To all returning guests, welcome back, and to new guests, welcome and thanks for joining us today. We have a really great session planned, but first I want to make a few announcements. Last week we had Dr. Evelina Graver on to talk about mental health for travel advisors. We got through a lot of topics with Evelina, and including tips for diet and tips for exercise. And Dr. Graver also helped us contextualize a lot of stuff that's been happening on the front line of the world right now. So for all those who missed the session, we're hosting it now on our training tab and on our YouTube page. All of our sessions are hosted on our YouTube page right now, including the last few sessions. We've had one on service fees. We've had one of the most useful smartphone apps for advisors. A lot of the most recent ones have been particularly popular for a lot of the audience. And I want to drop the link in the chat to our page in case anyone wants to catch up on any of the past sessions. I want to announce our next session will be held October 15th. We're going to be welcoming two advisors, Kristen Buckshire and Christy Peck. They're going to be on to talk about selling resorts and selling theme park vacations in the age of COVID-19. Both Kristen and Christy are doing some really interesting things and having success with it as COVID has gone along, and theme parks and resorts have both changed with the new normal. So I'm super excited to hear what they have to say. Both of them have experienced those products firsthand since the pandemic have started. So they'll be able to give us some opinions and some updates about how the reopenings are going. So I think that one will be super valuable for everybody. And as always, we'll get that link out to register once we wrap up today. I also just quickly want to make sure everyone is aware of our new Maestro series too. We've teased that a few times. I've teased it on this call a couple times, and we've teased it through email a little bit here and there, but we are officially soft launching the series at the end of the day today. So please be on the lookout for your invitation. And we also provide a link. I will also try to shoot out a link to everyone who was on this call so you can inquire about it if you're interested. I want to give just a quick overview of the Maestro series. It basically came about because of all the attendees on this series, the MasterAdvisor series, and we've had a lot of inquiries about sort of sourcing more information about the business of running your agency. And so we brought together experts in a number of fields, including digital marketing, accounting, CRM, PR, service fees, and we've also sort of built a team of 9 legal experts who've all had travel industry experience. The series will give you an opportunity to learn when you want and where you want over the next 3 months. The content's going to be built up to 50 video sessions available on demand, all full of knowledge and information that's not found anywhere else. We're super excited about this, and I just want to make sure everyone's aware, because at the end of the day, it is going live, and we're going to be hoping you all join us there too. So hopefully see you there, and keep a lookout for the email. So today, to get to today's session, I want to welcome Luann and Melissa Lisell. They're joining us to talk about their experience working as a mother-daughter team in a family-owned business. They're the people behind Lisell Travel, a full-service travel company based in Plano, Texas, that was founded in 2009. They're here because they are one of many family-owned businesses that seem to be a trend in the travel industry, and I'm very thankful for them for lending us their time. I'm very excited to hear what they have to say. So I want to say welcome, Luann and Melissa, and thanks so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having us, Dan.
Well, I wanna get into sort of the pros and cons and everything about running a family-owned business, but I wanted to give you guys the opportunity to tell us about your start in travel, and we'll start with Luann, your start in travel, and then eventually how your start in travel led down the path to your daughter joining you in the business.
I think my start in travel happened about 25 years ago. I'm an HR person, so that's really what I did for a long time in the corporate world, and started my own consulting company, but really enjoyed doing travel when I was putting together some choir tours for our youth at church. They would travel across the country, and in the olden days, we didn't have all the websites that we have now, so it was phone calls and it was planning and putting it all together, and I loved it so much that when an invitation came in the mail for me to spend maybe $200, I'm not sure, to become a travel agent, I thought this would be good. Maybe there are more resources that I could get into. Started with that company. They were an agency, but really they just did training. Got my CLIA card. They had no support, no talk about preferred suppliers, none of that. They went belly up, and I went in with another agent who had her own agency, and I went in as an IC. Was there for quite a while, and then there was just a difference, and I was ready to move on. and actually started my own agency 11 years ago. But throughout all of this, whether it was the choir tours or whatever, both of my daughters were younger then and were always involved, wanted to help, sometimes clerically, sometimes putting things together, sometimes whatever they wanted to do. And the business just kind of continued to grow. But when I started my own agency, I was happy that Melissa wanted to do some things in it. She had a full-time job, which she can tell you about. And as things grew, it was always, I wanted them to be in it, both girls actually, but it had to be their own choice. So they just kind of, I think we evolved.
So Melissa, I'm curious what your earliest memory of your mom and travel is. Do you have an early memory that sort of sticks out in your head? And then what made you make that decision to, I guess it had to be a career change to jump into the travel industry and then to join a business that you knew so much about?
So my earliest memory is the church groups that she was talking about. I was actually one of the students that went on it. So I watched her put together the itinerary and calling the different cities, trying to find a place for us to stay, arranging the buses. I think we used Buses by Bill for a long time. So I kind of saw the behind the scenes that none of the other kids saw. And then I really got into it since kindergarten. I've known I wanted to be a teacher. And so I was a full-time second and third grade teacher. And then during the summers, I would help out at the agency that my mom was an IC through, kind of like filing the 8,000 brochures that came in, answering the phones. And then trip requests kind of would come in while the owner was out at lunch, and I'd be like, I can do this. And so I kind of got my toes wet that way. When mom went on her own, I definitely did more. And then about 6 or 7 years ago is when I decided this is what I want to do, and started doing it more and more. And then a few years ago made the decision to resign from teaching and do this full time. So I'm on year 3 of not teaching.
Okay. And how your first, I mean, this is your third year in travel, and we've had maybe the most significant event in the industry in the past couple of decades. I guess my question is, how's your experience been the first 2 years, and then what does year 3 feel like?
So this is technically my third year doing this full time, but honestly, the last few years that I was teaching, I had 2 full-time jobs. So I was sleeping very few hours.
Okay.
But this year has been difficult, and we've had a lot to deal with unexpectedly, financially. It's been stressful. But even I think just yesterday, Luann and mom and I were talking about I could still be teaching, and I'm not sure which job would be more stressful right now. But I know that I love this one a whole lot more. It's very different. It also allowed me to work from the Dominican Republic last week. So I love the flexibility of that.
Yeah, I don't think well, I guess you could do that teaching now with everything virtual, but it wouldn't be, I don't think the school district would like that.
No.
But yeah, I mean, it is nice hearing these stories, because we hear about sort of how the industry has changed through a lineage. Like Luann, you mentioned the CLIA card. I've had other advisors mention IATA cards to me, and stamping brochures was a comment in the chat. And a lot of those trends seem to have changed throughout the years. And I mean, I guess for you, Luann, is it nice to be able to see the change in the industry through your family, and I guess past the lessons you've learned along to your daughter?
I think that she doesn't understand what it was like before the internet because of the age difference. But again, that's the benefit also of working with a child, because it's a different generation, and her experience with all of that is very different than mine. So we can learn from each other. But there's definitely a great deal of gratitude that I have watching her grow and teaching her things and doing the mentoring that I can do. But on the same hand, I'm watching myself grow by everything she teaches me. So together, we're so much more powerful than I was alone.
Yeah, we already have a couple comments in the chat about others' experiences in a family-run business. And I think I'm gonna ask that question a little later. But I think it is something that's unique to the travel industry. and I think it's something that people should be very proud of. But I guess curious, right now I want to get into sort of your agency. I guess can you talk to me about your different roles in your agency and what sort of your work life is like with the dynamic you two have? I mean, are you guys in a brick and mortar agency? Are you guys working from home? I assume you're home now, but is it traditionally a home setup and you're sort of separating your separate offices and your separate places of living? I guess Melissa, yeah, or whoever wants to.
I'll start, you can finish. We are home-based, we're part of Nest. So we are home-based agencies. So this is my office and Melissa's in her office in her home, which happens to be only 7 short minutes away from me, which is nice. So when things come in, we can easily get together and share docs or whatever comes in. I think that, I forgot the question.
Well, what are your roles? What are your different roles at the agency too? I know, Luann, I know you built the agency, but I mean, what roles do you guys occupy now?
I think that actually every year, I keep thinking I'm pulling back from the day-to-day client work and I'm going to manage, and that's what I want to do, and work with the other team members that we have, to be there as a resource and really work with them and look at the numbers and run the reports and do the planning and really do that office management. I got to that point a few years ago, and then business just got crazy busy. And Melissa, I passed off some of my clients to her, so we worked together as a team, which worked together really well, because some of my clients that I had for years were like, why am I not working with you? But I was traveling quite a bit, and it was very easy to say, we want to give you our full attention, so we're going to do this together. You get both of us, and we'll keep in touch, and so we all know what's going on. And so I passed on several of my clients to her. We still share a lot of clients depending on what they're doing. And I think the problem is Melissa grew her own business, and as she grew, she really couldn't handle my clients as well, and so I got them back. So now I'm doing clients and management. My other daughter is in the business also, and she's taken over the office management. So that is a part that was hard for me to give up because I am a control person, but she's doing that as well, which helps significantly. And so we all do different things. We have different niches, but Melissa is basically taking on some of the management roles in other areas like social media and marketing.
Okay.
Yeah, that's really where my strength comes in, and something that it just doesn't come as easily to mom. But yes, I do all of our social media. We recently started an agency newsletter, and that's on my task. And then we also typically face-to-face hold meetings with our teammates, with our ICs, twice a month. And obviously that's not happening. It's now happening via Zoom instead. But I kind of organize that. And that's the teacher part of me that I love coming out, and everybody has their binder and we put in their report. Yeah. So yeah, we definitely have different roles. But it's the experience of the clients that we still share. And that's the most important part. We're a family agency, and our clients a lot of times feel like family.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask. I mean, what kind of feedback do you get from your clients who know you're a family-run agency? Do they say they feel more comfortable? Is it nice that they sort of know that your relationship goes beyond the agency and that there's not going to be a lack of communication? I know because if working with my parents, I know there'd be no restrictions on what they would want to say to me. I think, they wouldn't hold their tongue ever. That's what's sticking out in my mind. But I don't have any firsthand experience with that. But is that what you hear from clients? Is that they do feel more comfortable speaking with you guys because you're a close-knit team?
I do feel that way. And we've had that feedback, and it's very easy if I am out of town, with the day and age we're in, you can always reach me. But it's easy for me to put up my away message and say, here's Luann's phone number. She knows, all of my clients that are traveling. She can help you if there's an emergency, if you can't reach me. And they like having that. It's not just a call center that they're getting. She actually knows my client. And I will say, there are times that we probably say things to each other that we shouldn't, that normal dynamics would frown upon. but that's also the benefit of working with family is she can tell me like it is, and I don't take it personally because she knows me. I can also call her just to vent.
Yeah. Who do you call to vent about her?
My sister.
Okay, fair enough.
And the family.
So I have a couple questions. I do want to mention that Luann, you're actually on our advisory board, and I don't think a lot of people in the chat know about that. But that's how we know each other, is from your Travel Market Report advisory board. It's been a super great experience for everyone at Travel Market Report. But I want to ask you guys separately about sort of the best things about working together and maybe the most challenging things about working together. And I think we should start with the most challenging things, so then we can roll into the best things. But I guess, Luann, do you want to start with? I mean, is there anything difficult? You mentioned your other daughters in your business too. What do you think is the most difficult aspect of not only building the family business, but just working day to day with people you're so close to? Is there anything that's exceptionally challenging?
I think probably the most challenging thing, and then putting into it as well that we're home based, is that there's never a separation from business and personal life. It becomes, it's one big thing for all of us. So family dinners, and my husband is also in the business with us. And so we get together and family dinners, or anytime we get together, the topic immediately either starts or ends up with travel. And we're talking about different things, and it's taken over our life and our world. So there's really no separation. And you answer that phone at 9 o'clock at night or 9:30 at night, whether I'm calling them or they're calling me because I have a great idea, or did we forget to do this, or how is this coming, which typically doesn't happen if they weren't family. But when that call comes in, you answer the phone and you talk about it and you think, you know, we've got this done now. I don't have to deal with it tomorrow. But it's, you know, there's never really an escape when you're living it. That's probably the most challenging.
I mean, Melissa, I see you're nodding your head. Is that something you agree with too?
Yeah, so we didn't talk about this ahead of time, but that's exactly the first thing that popped into my mind, is putting those boundaries up. And even with my sister being involved, she has two kids, a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. And as soon as she had kids, we really had to put like restrictions on, I can't call you unless it's a work emergency after 6 to talk about work. I need to send you an email or wait until the next day, just because it does encroach, and it's so easy to become the topic at dinner every night.
Yeah, that is a good point. Like those barriers, those boundaries you have to put up, those are helpful, I guess, to like both the business and both your personal lives too.
Yeah, but then again, it's so easy too to call her to talk about the dogs or something else, and then just, oh, and did I tell you? And then an hour later, we're discussing a new marketing idea. So it happens.
So we have a couple questions in the chat. For everyone who doesn't know who's on the call, the chat is open. If you want to drop a question or comment in there, we'll try to grab them as we go. But Beth asks, she wants to know, I guess this is for you, Luann. It doesn't seem like you had a difficult time getting Melissa and involved in the business, but she wants to know, what about trying to get family members interested in the business? How difficult is that? And I guess for you, it might not have been difficult. I'll let you answer it, of course. But do you have any tips or any suggestions if she was looking to get a family member involved in the business, and maybe that family member was somewhat reluctant?
I think that I never really thought that I wanted to have the kids in business with me. I was very independent and I was doing it that way. And I think that as they were growing up, our goal for the girls was really to have them do what they wanted to do. And I honestly never thought that either one of them would work with me. And in my other business, Shannon works with me full-time in that and part in travel, and Melissa works with me in this now. But we really wanted them to not feel like it was an obligation, that it was a family business, so it must be passed down. That never really came into being. So I think if Melissa were still teaching and wasn't involved, I would be fine with that. Yeah. I know that a lot of people, though, want to have family involved. Just not my experience.
Yeah.
Well, and to give Luann credit too, when my travel business took off so much, it was about 3.5 years ago. We were, again, mother-daughter date, went out to dinner, and she basically just laid the cards out and said, you can't do both. It's time to pick. I don't care. I'm being your mother. I'm not being your boss right now, but it's time to pick one or another. But, you know, she did entice me into the business. I don't think she realizes it. But we grew up traveling. I mean, I went to Europe for the first time when I was 11. We went back 2 years later. We cruised. I mean, really, they instilled that love of travel growing up. And so I always wanted to do it more. And it fits so well with my other career because I had summers off, I had holidays. So yes, I definitely joined in. She also enticed me just by showing me the benefits, you know, that flexibility of time, the ability to travel, the conferences. She made it all look very glamorous, and it is, but it definitely enticed me in.
Yeah, it's interesting, especially now with all the talk about the industry and about the travel trade. That's a big benefit for being an advisor, is to be able to travel and be able to bring your family on these amazing experiences. And I think that's a part of what's causing a lot of suffering in the industry, aside from sort of the monetary suffering, is not being able to get out and pursue something people have pursued their whole lives. So I think that's definitely something to point out, something for everyone to remember, that when travel does come back, those benefits will hopefully all come back too. And when the borders open, I think it'll be a wave of relief for a lot of people. All right, so I guess we can move on. I guess we'll start with Melissa on this one. What's the best thing with being in this kind of business?
I think it's that every day is different. I don't know what kind of client request is going to come in. You know, I might be working on a destination wedding in the morning, and then in the afternoon, I'm working on an anniversary trip to Tahiti. So it's never boring. We always have a variety. Every day is different. So I look forward to coming to my office. My office is a fun place for me to be.
What about you, Luann?
I think the same thing. There's always something new. People talk about COVID being you have to be liquid and fluid, and it's constantly changing. That's our industry. And that's the thing that I knew. I mean, as soon as I recognized how much I didn't know, that's when I started growing, because there's always something changing and growing, and cruise lines are adding things here, and another supplier's going out, and now they're changing their policies. And, even pre-COVID, it's that kind of learning, and that's very exciting. And of course, the clients that we choose the clients. We don't have to have every client. So if we have a client that makes us crazy, then why do we have them? Although we have a few that we hang on to, even though they make us crazy.
So we have a couple good questions in the chat right now. This one's for you, Melissa. Susan Rice wants to know, what do you do differently that you think works better? As she said, her son thinks she's a dinosaur. I guess you mentioned that with the social media and the technology side of things, but is there anything else you think is important to point out?
So I automate a lot.
Okay.
My email signature and setting up, I'll send out my consultation calendar, and you pick a time that works for you. But to give my mom credit, she'd much rather pick up the phone and call a client. Whereas I'm like, no, don't call me, just email me. So definitely technology is my strength in that automation, and she's learning to love some of it, but she's still really good at that personal connection. So that's what I'm working on.
I'm curious, do you have, would you say your clients are in a different age group than your mom's clients?
Yes, kind of. My specialty is really destination weddings and honeymoons, but I have clients across all age ranges, everything from, I've done high school graduation for, a bunch of 18-year-old girls up to, I have clients in their 70s and 80s. So I think the majority of the people that I work with are going to be 30s, 40s, just because of my niche. But I also, do a lot of river cruising as well.
Okay. And I guess Luann, Carrie wants to know if you have any non-family members in the business, and I guess what what are the dynamics with the non-family members being a part of a team that's largely family members?
I guess we do have two independent contractors as part of our team. And I think from my perspective, you've got the family that you're stuck with and then the family that you choose. And they're really the family that we choose. I mean, there are people that I've known that I really like. We are definitely ready at the point now where we can add more outside agents. And we want to do that, but we're going to be very specific about how do you fit with our dynamic. And we are a family and we're bringing you into our family. And that's much more important than just having another person working with us.
It's really nice. Yeah, that is a nice thing to say. We welcome in a part of the family. So we have another one more, and then we'll get back to sort of the other questions. I guess this one's for you, Melissa. Celine wants to know, would you want your children to be in the same business as you also when that day comes?
So I don't have children, I have dogs, so that would be awkward. But if I think about my niece and nephew, you never know where the travel industry is going to go. I know people are shocked that we're still around. I don't see us going anywhere. If anything, I see the demand for a competent travel advisor to go up even higher. So if that trend stayed, I would love to have the kids as part of the business. They already travel. I think my nephew has flown in business and first class more than I have.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a great industry, but again, I'm going to take the same lead that mom took and not force them. Whatever they want to be, they can be, but I would welcome them.
Yeah, we actually, I was on at the leisure group conference last week, and they couldn't say enough good things about advisors, and they also couldn't say enough things about how important advisors are going to be to helping return consumer demand and consumer confidence. So I think that's important for everyone to remember too. I'm curious if you have any tips for communication that you guys might employ that might also help people within family businesses and also outside of family businesses. I know dynamics for you guys can shift, like you spoke about, between family life and work life pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And aside from the 6 o'clock rule, I'm wondering if there's any other rules that you guys, or borders or boundaries you put up to make sure you're separating things. And I guess what do you do when you're at the dinner table or you're at a holiday dinner and the conversation is a work conversation? Do you guys try to push it somewhere else? Do you do anything else? Do you have any rules or regulations on those kind of situations?
I think we're really bad about it. It normally takes my brother-in-law like rolling his eyes or trying to change the subject, and it's like, oh, I'm so sorry. But we definitely, a lot of the conversations that we're having, it's not negative, it's positive in how we can grow the business.
Yeah.
And so it's easy to get carried away with there. So we don't have boundaries. We do need to work on other ways to communicate, but I think the majority is phone calls, emails, and then our bi-monthly meetings, which right now are happening weekly on Zoom.
Okay. What about you, Luann? Is there anything you employ by yourself to make sure you stay sane or stay level? Especially because you're the mother of the family too, so things have to be a little different.
Right. I think that I agree with everything that Melissa said. And I think as long as it stays positive, it's not bad. I mean, we really try to spin everything more positive than dwell on the negative, which is good. But I think communication itself is so important. So even if I'm having a bad day and just got off a phone and I'm super tense, if I'm talking to either one of the girls, they will call me on it and say, I don't like the tone of voice you're using with me. And it's fine. I think that you have to let people know and to say, I'm not angry at you. I'm angry. You're right. I have no reason to vent, to you. Or if there's a conflict or if there seems to be any tension at all regarding anything, it's just like talk, just figure it out, just talk through it. And we really haven't had issues like that because I think we do talk.
That's a pretty good track record too for not having issues. I mean, you guys have worked together for quite a while. It seems like a fair amount of time now too. So not having any major blowups, I think, is definitely something you should hang your hat on. So I did notice a lot of new people in the group when we welcome people in, and it seems like we do have a few people who are in family businesses themselves. And a lot of talk in the chat about that. Lorena said she had a family business for a long time and she moved to Canada. And I guess her issue was that she had siblings the issue for her would that when you were the boss, siblings might might not want to follow the orders. So they each need their own area to develop, which is interesting because that's sort of, I guess siblings would be a completely different dynamic than a mother-daughter or father-son team. Let's see if we have any. So if anyone else wants to drop a question in the chat, I'll grab as many as we go along. But I did want to ask you something that we talked about a little earlier that I mentioned. If you guys think this is something unique to travel. I mean, Luann, I've seen you at our advisory board meetings and I've seen you at other conferences. And I know you two travel a lot, especially, pre-COVID, to different conferences and different symposiums and things like that. And you speak to people in the industry. And I know there's some iconic family teams in travel. I know the Wilsons at Valerie Wilson Travel. I know Adam and Butch Stewart sort of share that mantle at Sandals. Rudy Schreiner and his wife with Alma Waterways, and the Mazas, the Travel Savers and Nest, which you guys are a part of. I'm wondering if you had any insight to that. Do you think that this is something unique to our industry? And if you do, why do you think it's such a travel industry thing?
I think it's definitely, part of our industry. Just going to some of the local travel things in the area, you see so many husband and wife teams, especially. That's maybe what you see the most of is husband and wives. And I don't know if they're just there for the free dinner and drinks or if they're actually in the business. It's hard to tell. But I think to involve someone like that, I think because it takes up so much time, but it's also something that we all experience. We travel, you travel as a family, you travel as a couple, you do that together. So I think it's very easy to become part of all of that. And I definitely know a lot of people who have their children as part of the business, or certainly a lot of spouses, either full-time or part-time.
I'm curious, you mentioned that, I mean, you said plans changed, but you mentioned that you were looking to pull back a little bit. I mean, what is your plan, I guess, when you do pull back completely? Are you going to leave it to your, I don't know if it's something you want to announce to Melissa now, but do you want to leave it, do you want to leave something for them to sort of take care of or something for them to continue to grow?
Exactly. And I think that's really the reason.
Okay.
Several years ago, I think I was ready. I was really at the point where I just said, when she really got involved more full time, I was ready to just let it go and thought, you know what, it's been a good run, but I think I just need to let it go. And she came on and said, I can do that, because I knew I couldn't handle all my clients. And she came in and started helping. And I think when she made that decision, I want to be part of that. It's such a good feeling because the legacy continues. I think it's hard for anybody to have a business and all that blood, sweat, and tears that goes into it, and you create something and not know what's going to happen when you're not there to do it. So this part of it I really like, and I'm, more and more will be handing over to Melissa. I don't want to overwhelm her, but if I got hit by a Mack truck tomorrow, it would be hers. And she knows that, which is fine. And that's kind of plan A. But what I'd like to do is just back off more and more. The girls both say, I will never retire. And I may not. I'll keep my fingers in just enough to make them crazy. But I think that there's a time to pull back and let the younger people run the agency.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Melissa. I mean, what is your opinion, I guess, on the first question about if you think this is unique to travel? And I guess, I mean, how does, anything else you want to add to that?
So I think it is definitely unique to travel. I really don't know very many, of my friends that work in a family business.
Yeah.
It seems like that used to be the tradition, for past generations. And then kind of my generation, the generation before, everybody kind of went and did their own thing and left the family business. So I definitely think that is the case. She's not going anywhere. I mean, she says she's going to back off, but she's been saying that for many, many years. I do think that she'll get farther and farther removed. But there was a comment about the siblings earlier, taking orders. I don't think she's ever given me an order. Like, even if she has a client, it's always, I have this client, do you have time? Would you be interested in taking this on? I say she's my boss, and she is, but she never treats me like an employee. She doesn't ever boss me around or tell me what to do, unless I'm asking her what to do.
Yeah, well, I think that I have a feeling that's something that might be something very unique to you two too, and to your family. I mean, I can't imagine I think that's something exceptional that you should definitely hold on to. But again, Melissa, something you mentioned before. You mentioned that a lot of kids go out and then come back, and that's what you did. You went out, you became a teacher, and then you came back, and you talked about the conversation you had with your mom, and she said you can't do both. I mean, do you remember when you had that conversation? Do you remember like why you made the decision to go one way and not the other? Do you remember what brought you to travel as opposed to sort of something that you've built? Like, you built a career in teaching, and you chose to go this other way. Do you remember that decision, and do you remember why exactly you made that decision?
So there were a lot of factors in there and what's going on in my life. Part of it is just like travel. The education industry is constantly changing. And I taught for 12 years. And between my first year and that 12th year, a lot of the policies changed. A lot of the laws changed. I loved the kids and I miss the kids. Like, that's the one thing. But I don't miss all the other parts. I don't, miss that part of it. And I think with travel, and the reason I chose it was that opportunity to have something new every day, the opportunity to experience it myself, to pick and choose my clients. I didn't get to pick and choose my students.
Yeah.
So it was just really that, again, I said the word 1,000 times, but that flexibility, and I had options, which is really what I liked.
So we have a lot of great comments in the chat. I saw Jennifer Wilson in there, and she says, from one family business to another, great session. And she's with her sisters too, and she says we text as sisters and email as colleagues, which seems like a smart thing to do. Devin Hansen says Devin Hansen says, my mom and I have worked side by side for the last 34 years. When I started, I never thought it would have led me to where it has. It's been a great time, and we both experienced so many things that most people never will. And then we had a question from Amory. She wants to know, in today's environment of little or no business, I guess this one is for you, Luann. In today's environment of little or no business, how do you handle the financial stress of keeping people employed and compensating family members and non-family members too? She says it must be difficult.
It has been difficult. I mean, that's definitely been the biggest challenge. COVID has been, I think so many great things have come out of COVID by having it, just to be able to take that step back and really evaluate and get caught up in that craziness of running like a crazy person is over. The negative, of course, is the financial. No money coming in. We're working just as hard. Everybody's working just as hard with no money. The PPP came in definitely very, that helped tremendously for that short time to help compensate both girls. But I think that the other part of it is that I always planned for the future. And so the money was there so that, they at least could continue working and not have to stop. Because again, the legacy would end. The business is gone, then it's back. I'm back to square one. So the financial strain definitely was there, but I was able to kind of get through it. The diversity of what we have right now, I mostly do cruises and groups. Melissa does, like she mentioned, destination weddings. She does the Mexico. So Mexico opened and she got there as quick as she could. And that has just really opened that up. And I've been to Mexico. She went to the Dominican. I mean, as places are opening, we're going, and that has really instilled confidence in our clients. And so that's really, really going on. Melissa definitely will carry financially the agency for the rest of the year because there's no cruising, but she has quite a bit of business going on in Mexico. So that is the benefit also of having different niches and different, different aspects.
Yeah, that is really interesting too. I mean, I guess aside from the family business side, Melissa, I mean, so what are your clients saying about Mexico right now? How comfortable are they traveling to Mexico, and what do you think makes them comfortable going to Mexico and booking to Mexico right now?
Well, I mean, I had clients itching to go, but really when I went and I started posting my videos and my experience, it drew up so much business. I have a destination wedding that's happening at the end of this month. And the bride, as soon as she saw me there, was like, I don't care if my guests aren't going, I'm still going. So it was kind of that confidence. I just booked another destination wedding for December of this year in Mexico. Again, getting married here in the States, there's so many restrictions on how many guests you can have, how many, can be at a table, things like that. And there are those restrictions in Mexico, but it's done differently. I just posted on Facebook, so it's, out there for everybody, but I felt safer going to Mexico and the Dominican Republic than I do here. There, they're capped at like 30, or they're capped at more now, but most of the resorts are at 30 to 40% occupancy. If I go to a bar here in Texas, it's at 75% occupancy. So, I mean, when you just think of that, here, the staff might be wearing masks, they might be covering their nose, whereas in Mexico and Dominican, I see them, they're in their masks all day long. I don't know how they do it. They've got face shields, they're wearing gloves. I mean, what they're doing there is so much more than we're doing here in our daily activities. And for my clients to see that, and then for them to come back and build on what I said, it just instills confidence in so many other clients as well.
And I'm curious, were any of the restrictions or any of the new rules or regulations, like the temperature checks and things like that, were any of those barriers for any clients, or they were just so pent up and so itching to go that they were willing to make those kind of small sacrifices?
Yeah, I think the one that everybody is hesitant about is the mask on the plane,
Yeah.
because for a lot of people, that's the longest time they've ever had to wear a mask. Because in our daily life, you wear it to go to the grocery store or here or there, but you're normally not sitting in a mask for hours unless you have a job that requires it. But as soon as they realize like it's not that big of a deal, to do that from Dallas to Cancun, it's like a 2.5-hour flight. So it's not a long flight. You can do it. It's fine. So really that was the only one that seemed to, hold people back. The other thing that they complain about is that the swim up bars aren't open. So
What bars?
The swim up bars at
okay.
the resorts aren't open. Some of them are, but they're like, so I have to wait for somebody to bring me my drink? Being served, who cares?
Yeah, exactly. That is, if you're gonna have it, that's a good issue to have, I think, if you're gonna have an issue. So we're getting a ton of comments about like more family-run businesses, and I saw some Nest and Travel Savers people in there too. Nicole Maza says great points. Melissa and Luann, communication and respect is so important in every business, especially in a family business. She says there's certainly some challenges, but the benefits are so much greater. And I think that's coming from someone who has both dynamics going on. I get her with siblings and with her father too. And Rosemary Sarkis, I know she's Nest too. She says awesome job, and there's a lot more comments in there. So I just want to say, first of all, thank you from me for jumping on here today. I know we had some technical issues, and we were rushing, but we sorted it out behind the scenes. I want to give you guys the last word to sort of wrap this up. And if there's anything else you want to say about sort of your dynamic, any tips for people who are working closely with spouses or with siblings or with parents, and I guess, would you recommend it to other people? I know there's a lot of career shifting going on right now. And I know a lot of people are looking around, but and people are maybe looking to pull into travel, and some people might be to pull out of travel. But would you recommend sort of jumping into travel with a family member now with the experience you two have had? And I guess we'll start off with Luann on this one.
I definitely would, depending on the right people. You have to like the person. I mean, obviously you love your children or your siblings or your parents or whatever, but if you don't like them also, then I probably wouldn't recommend doing it, because there will be conflict and you're not going to be able to separate it so much easier. But if you really feel that you can work together, it's wonderful, because you know their strengths. You know the other person's developmental areas, and you know where you can work together and complement each other. And that's the best part, I think, of being able, plus It's wonderful. I get to work with my children every single
Yeah.
day. And so I definitely, if you can make it work, I would recommend it in a heartbeat.
What about you, Melissa?
I would make the same decision in a heartbeat to join the business. I think it's the best thing that I've done for myself. I think it helps the family. And there's nobody else that I would like to talk to every day about work and travel with. So I'm thankful that this was even an option, even though I didn't know it's what I wanted way back when.
Yeah, and I think that I've heard that from a lot of people now that for the people who would have been forced home-based because of COVID, they do get to spend more time with their family than ever spent before. And I think that's something people are going to look back on and then be thankful for. It was really an honor hearing your guys' story. I hope maybe we'll have you back sometime in the future. And I just want to say thank you so much for your time. And yeah, hopefully for anyone who did jump on halfway through, I see some comments. We're going to host a video on our YouTube page and on our training tab so everyone can rewatch it. And everything else is on there too if you want to take a look. And then a couple quick reminders is the Maestro series. Be ready for that by the end of the day to hear for the end of the day today from TMR. And I hope you guys come back in the next couple of weeks when we're talking about resorts and talking about theme park vacations in the age of COVID in a couple of weeks. So thank you again, Melissa and Luann, and I hope everyone has a great rest of your week and a great weekend.
Thank you.